In the FBI's Miami field office evidence room sits a plastic drum still caked with dirt. Item number 347B contains something that federal agents could hardly believe when they first discovered it. $1.1 million in vacuum-sealed cash, buried like pirate treasure in a suburban backyard. The bills were pristine, protected from moisture and decay, suggesting someone who planned for the long haul. But 3 years earlier, this same money didn't exist in Albert Gonzalez's world. In December 2005, an eviction notice lay crumpled on Albert's desk next to empty pizza boxes and energy drink cans. His government informant payments barely covered rent, let alone the lifestyle he craved. The $1,000 monthly stipend from his FBI handlers was meant for basic living expenses, not the Miami nightlife scene he desperately wanted to join. Albert was tired of being broke. While friends from his old Shadow Crew hacking days posted photos from European vacations bought with stolen credit card data, he sat in his cramped apartment feeling like a sucker. The FBI trusted him completely. They had given him a second chance, pulled him out of federal prison, and made him their poster child for redemption. At cybersecurity conferences, Agent Sarah Chen would introduce him as proof that hackers can change. But sitting there in his apartment, watching his reflection in a black computer screen, Albert asked his friend Stephen Watt a simple question. What if we started small? Just one store. Test the waters. The money that would eventually be buried in his parents' backyard began with that single question. What if? This wasn't supposed to happen. Albert Gonzalez was supposed to be the FBI's success story, a reformed cybercriminal helping them catch the bad guys. Instead, he was about to become America's most wanted hacker, while simultaneously teaching the very agents who would eventually hunt him down. The buried treasure in his backyard was just the beginning of a story so audacious, it defies belief.
Every criminal leaves traces, but in the digital world, those traces can be invisible for years. In the FBI's Digital Evidence Archive sits a collection of wireless access logs from 17 different retail locations. Each one shows the same MAC address, 0014A56C293B. This tiny string of numbers and letters appeared at every crime scene like a calling card, eventually becoming the key piece of evidence that would bring down America's most successful cybercriminal. But 18 months before its discovery, that MAC address represented something else entirely: freedom. In August 2006, Albert sat in his Honda Civic in a Marshall's parking lot in Aventura, Florida. His laptop balanced on his knees as he watched the signal strength indicator climb. The Marshall's wireless network appeared on his screen like a neon welcome sign. Marshall Guest, unsecured network. His heart pounded as he prepared to cross the line from reformed informant to active cybercriminal. Stephen's custom malware sat ready on his hard drive, specifically designed to burrow through retail payment systems undetected. Through his Bluetooth earpiece, Stephen's voice crackled from his car across the parking lot. "You sure about this?" Albert watched a young mother exit the store with shopping bags, probably using the same credit card he was about to steal. For a moment, he hesitated. Agent Chen trusted him. She had fought to get him this informant deal instead of prison time. But then he thought about his latest FBI meeting, where agents discussed Eastern European hackers who had netted millions from similar retail breaches. "We need to understand how they think," Chen had said. "Albert, your insights into criminal psychology are invaluable." If only she knew how valuable they were about to become. Albert hit enter. The malware deployed silently into Marshall's payment processing network, beginning its harvest of customer credit card data. Within minutes, thousands of card numbers were flowing to his encrypted servers. "We're in," he whispered. The MAC address 0014A56C293B had just committed its first crime, leaving a digital fingerprint that would eventually lead federal agents directly to his door.
The NSA's cryptanalysis division eventually decrypted what may be the most brazen criminal communications in American history. Instant messages between Sup Nazi and Maxic read like a criminal instruction manual, coordinating the largest credit card theft ever recorded. But buried in the technical jargon was something investigators found even more shocking. Timestamps showing these conversations happened during Albert's scheduled FBI meetings. March 2007. Albert sits across from Agent Chen in a sterile FBI conference room, sipping coffee and discussing hacker psychology. "So, walk me through a typical criminal's mindset," Chen says. "How do they avoid detection?" On Albert's laptop, minimized behind his PowerPoint presentation, an encrypted chat window blinks with messages from Maxim Yastrensky in Ukraine. While maintaining eye contact with his handler, Albert types his response to Maxim's offer of 50,000 stolen credit cards. $45 per card for platinum, $30 for gold, usual Bitcoin transfer. Aloud, he tells Agent Chen, well, sophisticated hackers use multiple layers of encryption and proxy servers to hide their communications. When Maxim warns that the FBI is getting closer to their networks, Albert reassures his criminal partner. "Don't worry, I have inside information. We're safe." Then he turns to Agent Chen and says, "They're also very disciplined about operational security. They never mix their criminal activities with their legitimate life." The irony was overwhelming. Albert was literally teaching the FBI how to catch himself while simultaneously coordinating with international partners to expand their criminal enterprise. When Chen praised his insider knowledge for helping build criminal profiles, Albert closed his laptop and smiled. "Happy to help," he said. This double life continued for years. By day, Albert was the reformed hacker helping federal agents understand cybercrime. By night, he was orchestrating the very crimes they were desperately trying to solve. The encrypted chat logs would eventually become key evidence in his trial, each message a testament to the most audacious con job in federal law enforcement history. The bank statements told a story that seemed too outrageous to be true. A Secret Service informant earning $75,000 annually had somehow accumulated $2.8 million in cash and assets. The deposits showed no legitimate source, arriving in amounts that perfectly matched credit card fraud patterns. Financial crimes investigators had never seen anything quite like it. 6 months before these suspicious deposits caught federal attention, Albert stood in his new $800,000 South Beach condo, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Biscayne Bay, feeling something he had never experienced before: the weight of success. The leather furniture, 60-inch plasma TV, and fully stocked bar represented more money than his family had ever seen. His phone buzzed with a text from his bank. Large deposit processed, $340,000. Yesterday's TJX data sale to Eastern European buyers had gone through. Albert had moved beyond small-time retail hacks to industrial-scale cybercrime. His crew now controlled networks processing millions of credit card transactions daily, but success brought new problems. How do you explain sudden wealth when you're supposed to be a reformed criminal on a government salary? Albert's solution was characteristically audacious: live the lifestyle openly and dare anyone to question it. He bought his girlfriend a $50,000 engagement ring. He purchased Rolex watches for his father and friends. He threw parties that made local nightclub owners jealous. When people asked about his newfound wealth, he would smile and say, "Cybersecurity consulting is very lucrative." The FBI agents who knew him best assumed his informant work had led to legitimate consulting opportunities. Why would they suspect otherwise? Albert opened his laptop to check the latest haul from their Heartland Payment Systems breach. Another 130 million credit card numbers ready for sale. The banking deposits would continue growing, each one a monument to the FBI's greatest failure and Albert's greatest success. He poured himself champagne and toasted his reflection in the window. Outside, Miami glittered like the criminal paradise he had always dreamed of conquering.
The black and white surveillance photographs showed a young man who clearly didn't understand he was being watched. In image after image, Albert appeared relaxed, confident, completely unaware that federal agents were documenting his every move. The timestamps revealed extensive surveillance in the months leading up to his arrest. But these same surveillance techniques had been protecting him for years. In January 2008, Agent Mike Rodriguez adjusted his rearview mirror to keep Albert's BMW in sight as they both sat in Miami traffic. For 3 years, Rodriguez had been part of Albert's protection detail,
ensuring their star informant stayed safe from retaliation by the hackers he had helped them catch. Today felt different. Instead of routine surveillance meant to protect Albert, Rodriguez was building a case against him. The breakthrough had come when Ukrainian hacker Maxim Yastremsky was arrested in Turkey. His encrypted laptop contained chat logs with Soup Nazi, a handle investigators recognized immediately. Their own informant had been their most wanted suspect all along. The irony was brutal. Rodriguez had spent years protecting the man who was stealing hundreds of millions of dollars from American companies. Rodriguez watched Albert park outside an electronics store, probably buying more equipment for his illegal operations. Through his telephoto lens, he photographed Albert examining wireless routers and high-gain antennas, tools of the trade for war-driving attacks on retail networks, evidence that would soon fill federal courtrooms. Albert emerged 20 minutes later, carrying bags full of equipment. He looked directly at Rodriguez's unmarked sedan, smiled, and waved like he was greeting an old friend. Rodriguez nearly choked. Did Albert know he was being surveilled? Was this some kind of message? But Albert simply climbed into his BMW and drove away, apparently without a care in the world. He had no idea that his years as America's most successful cybercriminal were about to end in his parents' backyard, digging up the evidence that would seal his fate forever. The watchers had become the watched, and the game was nearly over.
A laptop computer sits in the FBI's International Evidence Vault, its hard drive containing the key that would unlock the entire Gonzalez operation. The machine belonged to Maxim Yastremsky, a 25-year-old Ukrainian card broker who made one fatal mistake, taking a vacation to Turkey in July 2007. Turkish police arrested Yastremsky on a routine passport check, but when FBI analysts cracked his encrypted drives, they discovered something that would change everything. Millions of stolen credit card numbers filled the machine's memory, along with a piece of malicious code that matched exactly what had been used in the TJX breach. Most damning of all were the chat logs. Thousands of instant messages between Yastremsky and a mysterious American partner who went by Sup Nazi. Federal agents recognized that handle immediately. They had been cutting paychecks to Sup Nazi for 3 years. The moment investigators connected Albert to the Ukrainian hacker network, the case transformed from a routine cybercrime investigation into something far more personal. Their trusted insider, their reformed success story, had been orchestrating the very crimes they were desperately trying to solve. The betrayal cut deep, transforming a professional investigation into an intensely personal hunt. Yastremsky's laptop revealed the scope of Albert's international criminal network. The Miami hacker wasn't just stealing from American retailers, he was running a global operation that stretched from South Beach nightclubs to Eastern European cybercrime syndicates. Card data flowed from American cash registers to Ukrainian black markets, generating hundreds of millions in profits. The evidence was overwhelming, but it created a new problem for federal investigators. How do you build a case against someone who attends your weekly briefings? How do you investigate a target who knows all your techniques? For months, a tight circle of agents worked in absolute secrecy, building an airtight case while maintaining the charade that Albert was still their trusted informant. They smiled and made small talk during routine meetings, all while documenting his every digital footprint. The psychological strain was enormous, discussing unrelated cases while knowing that he was the prime target of their career's biggest investigation.
Evidence item 445C contains something that perfectly captures Albert's audacity, a photograph from his 26th birthday party. The image shows Albert surrounded by champagne bottles, expensive escorts, and friends wearing matching Rolex watches, a $75,000 celebration that should have been impossible on a government informant's salary. The party happened in March 2007, at the height of Albert's criminal success. While federal task forces across the country scrambled to identify the TJX hackers, the mastermind was literally celebrating in plain sight. His FBI handlers knew about the party. Albert had invited Agent Chen, though she politely declined, citing professional boundaries. Albert's lifestyle had become increasingly extravagant, but somehow his handlers never connected the dots. When they asked about his expensive clothes and jewelry, he explained it away as consulting income from his cybersecurity expertise. When he bought the South Beach condo, he told them a wealthy relative had died. The lies came easily because they wanted to believe their success story. Meanwhile, Albert's criminal operation was reaching industrial scale. His crew had moved beyond simple retail hacks to infiltrating major payment processors like Heartland Payment Systems. They were stealing credit card data directly from the source, capturing transactions before they even reached the banks. The scope was unprecedented. 130 million additional card numbers on top of their earlier thefts. Steve and Watt had perfected their custom malware to be virtually undetectable. The code would burrow deep into payment networks, establish persistent backdoors, and silently exfiltrate data for months without triggering security alerts. They had turned cybercrime into a science, with Albert applying everything he had learned from his FBI training. But success bred carelessness. The more money Albert made, the more brazenly he flaunted it. The birthday party was just the beginning. He would soon purchase multiple luxury cars, expensive jewelry for his entire extended family, and even consider buying a nightclub. Each purchase was another piece of evidence that would eventually fill federal courtrooms. The photograph from that birthday party would become a key exhibit in his trial, showing a man who believed he was untouchable. In the image, Albert raises a champagne glass toward the camera, smiling with the confidence of someone who thought he had beaten the system forever.
A single MAC address changed everything. When FBI analysts finally isolated the unique hardware identifier 00-14-A5-6C-29-3B from the Heartland breach, they discovered it matched evidence from 17 other crime scenes stretching back 2 years. The same wireless card had been used in retail parking lots from Miami to Boston, leaving a digital trail that led directly to Albert Gonzalez. The breakthrough came from painstaking analysis of wireless access logs, thousands of pages of technical data that most investigators would have ignored. But buried in the timestamps and connection records was a pattern that revealed the true scope of Albert's operation. Every major retail breach in the southeastern United States bore his digital fingerprint. Armed with this evidence, federal agents began the most delicate surveillance operation in FBI history. They couldn't risk alerting Albert that he was under investigation. He knew all their standard techniques and would disappear at the first sign of suspicion. Instead, they created a compartmentalized investigation, known only to a handful of agents with the highest security clearances. The surveillance teams work in shifts, using rotating vehicles and disguises to avoid detection. They watched Albert's condo, followed him to meetings, and documented every aspect of his criminal lifestyle. The evidence mounted daily. Photographs of expensive purchases, records of suspicious bank deposits, intercepted communications with international criminal networks. But the most damning evidence was Albert's own behavior. He had become so comfortable in his role as a trusted informant that he barely tried to hide his criminal activities. Surveillance teams watched him purchase hacking equipment in broad daylight, meet with known criminals in public places, and spend money at a rate that would have been impossible on his government salary. The investigation revealed something even more disturbing than Albert's crimes: the extent to which he had infiltrated and compromised federal law enforcement. He knew the names of other informants, the details of ongoing investigations, and the specific techniques agents used to catch cybercriminals. His betrayal wasn't just financial, it was a massive breach of national security. As the evidence accumulated, federal prosecutors began preparing what would become the largest cybercrime case in American history. They had enough evidence to convict Albert on dozens of counts, but they wanted to dismantle his entire network before he realized the trap was closing.
May 7th, 2008. The National Hotel on Miami Beach buzzed with typical South Beach energy: tourists, nightclub crowds, and the usual chaos of paradise. In room 1508, Albert relaxed with his girlfriend, completely unaware that the lobby swarmed with federal agents disguised as vacationers and hotel staff. The operation had been planned for weeks. Federal agents from multiple agencies coordinated to ensure Albert had no escape routes and no advance warning. They had learned from his FBI training that he was skilled at detecting surveillance, so they used techniques he had never been taught, methods developed specifically for this arrest. Agents monitored Albert's cell phone, tracked his credit card purchases, and maintained visual surveillance from multiple angles. When he checked into the National Hotel, they knew immediately. When he ordered room service, they knew what he ate. When he made phone calls, they recorded every word. At the same time, coordinated raids were being planned across multiple states. Albert's accomplices would be arrested simultaneously
to prevent any of them from destroying evidence or fleeing the country. Stephen Watt in Miami, various associates in New York, and financial facilitators across the network all would be taken down in a single night. The timing was critical. Albert was scheduled to meet with Agent Chen the following morning for his regular briefing. If the arrests failed, he would realize something was wrong and might disappear before they could apprehend him. Federal prosecutors had spent months building their case, and they would only get one chance to execute it properly. As midnight approached, tactical teams took positions throughout the hotel. Some posed as late-night guests, others as security personnel, and still others as maintenance workers. The elevators were quietly disabled to prevent Albert from escaping to other floors. Every exit was covered, every contingency planned. In his room, Albert was checking the latest profits from his criminal network, completely unaware that his freedom was measured in minutes rather than years. The laptop screen showed millions in pending transactions, stolen credit card data flowing to buyers around the world, and communications with criminal partners who still believed their network was secure. Outside his door, federal agents made final preparations for an arrest that would end the most successful double-agent operation in American criminal history.
The door to room 1508 exploded inward at exactly 12:17 a.m. Federal agents flooded the suite with weapons drawn and flashlights blazing. Albert, caught completely off guard, froze in place before he could reach for the loaded Glock beside his bed. Within seconds, steel handcuffs closed around his wrists, ending one of the most extraordinary criminal careers in American history. The room contained a treasure trove of evidence. $22,000 in cash sat in a duffel bag. High-end laptops were still running criminal operations, and sophisticated hacking equipment filled multiple suitcases. But the real treasure was buried 3 feet deep in his parents' backyard. $1.1 million in vacuum-sealed cash that told the complete story of his crimes. Across the country, Albert's criminal network collapsed in a single night. 11 co-conspirators were arrested in coordinated raids from Miami to New York. Stephen Watt was taken into custody while working on malware updates. Financial facilitators were arrested as they prepared to transfer millions in criminal proceeds. The entire operation that had stolen from American retailers for years was dismantled in less than 6 hours. The scope of Albert's crimes shocked even veteran investigators. Federal prosecutors revealed that he had stolen 170 million credit and debit card numbers from dozens of major retailers. The financial damage exceeded $400 million, making it the largest identity theft case in American history at the time. But the real damage went far beyond money. Albert had betrayed the trust of federal agents who believed in his redemption. He had compromised ongoing investigations, endangered other informants, and made a mockery of the federal justice system. His actions would change how law enforcement agencies vet and monitor their sources forever. In 2010, Albert Gonzalez stood in a federal courtroom wearing an ill-fitting suit, looking nothing like the South Beach playboy he had once been. The judge sentenced him to 20 years in federal prison, 2 decades to reflect on how he had transformed from reformed hacker to America's most wanted cybercriminal. His legacy extends far beyond his prison sentence. Every chip card transaction, every enhanced cybersecurity protocol, and every improved retail payment system exists partly because of Albert's crimes. He forced an entire industry to evolve, creating the secure payment infrastructure we use today. On September 19, 2023, Albert Gonzalez walked out of federal prison into a world fundamentally changed by his crimes. No cameras captured his release, no reporters waited for statements. The man who had once commanded headlines slipped back into society as quietly as he had once slipped into computer networks, returning to a digital landscape made infinitely more secure by the chaos he had caused.